Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of CTRL INDIE. Today I'm pleased to introduce you to Linus, creator of such gems as One Late Night and his latest project Hero Below the Sun. He's the founder of Black Curtain Studio and he joined us today to talk about the process of creating video games, the ups and downs of being an indie developer, and what it takes to maintain success after many years of creating this art. Linus, welcome to the show. So let's start this episode by learning a little bit about yourself, please.
I like video games. I have a big collection of video games. I work as a web developer, front-end development. I like to draw. I like art, painting. I go to gym frequently. And I have a 5-year-old daughter that I spend a lot of time with.
So Linus, what inspired you to dive into the world of video game development?
I've, for as long as I can remember, I've wanted to create video games. Maybe since kindergarten, when I first played video games. But it wasn't until maybe 2006, 2005 when I really started to dip my toes into game development and found Game Maker like many other indie developers. And yeah. I think it was Game Maker 5 or 6 back then. Yeah. And I also did try to make some games with Flash, which was also very popular back then. Of course. And then I think there was another game tool called Game Creator or something like that, which was similar to Game Maker. But in the end, I stuck with Game Maker, and I tried to do some 3D games pretty early on, which was maybe a bit too ambitious. And then maybe 6-7 years later, I discovered Unity, and then it was then I made my first big commercial success with the game called One Late Night. Yeah. If maybe you've heard of it. It's a office horror game. You explore you work at the office and late at night, and then some spooky things start to happen. And then from there I expanded into some mobile development as well, mobile games. Then I continued with the next One Late Night game, and then some more mobile games, and then I made a game called Mord. And then my latest game is obviously Zero Below the Sun, which I released, a week ago.
Yeah. So Black Curtain Studio is known for its innovative approach of transforming mundane daily activities into complete video game ideas. So can you share the reason behind this creative decision?
It started with back when the Slender games became popular, 8 pages. I played it and thought this is pretty simple and not very scary. So I came up with a game that was more relatable. Everyday concept where you work in an office, which many people do, and then some scary things start to happen. So the idea was that you can put yourself into the situation of the game, and that's where it grew from there. Make games that you can relate to.
Of course.
I also made a game called Parked in the Dark, where you're supposed to find your lost car in a parking garage.
Yeah.
Which can also be relatable, I think.
Yeah, sure. Can you describe your approach to designing video games? How do you go from an initial idea to a fully developed game?
With Zero Below the Sun as an example, I knew from the beginning that I wanted to create a survival horror game, but I didn't want to create just another Resident Evil game type of game. Like, it's very popular with the fixed camera view and the pre-rendered backgrounds and all that. So I had the idea of some type of survival horror game set in Antarctica because I like the movie The Thing, and I like the setting of an Arctic environment and the desolate, spooky secret facility.
Of course.
So and then I thought, I want to create some more action-oriented survival horror where you can almost like a third-person shooter with survival horror elements. So I made it firstly fully 3D and a free camera, and that's where the ground, the core was established, and from there I moved on to the visuals, which I obviously wanted to stay true to the PS1 aesthetic with low polygons and low resolution textures and all that. And then the environments are pretty realistic, but the characters are pretty stylized and a bit cartoonish almost, which I think it gives a pretty good personality to the game.
Of course. How do you approach the process of bug testing in your video games? Do you have a specific schedule or system in place to ensure quality and performance throughout the development cycle? How does that work?
I don't really have a system or priority. Well, I always prioritize bugs before new features, of course. But I have a to-do list, which I use a tool called ClickUp, a project management tool, where I basically put in all my in progress and to-dos and backlogs and all that. Then I just go through them one by one, starting with the bugs. And bugs from players, I usually I look on Steam, the community. The posts I find on there, and then maybe some on Twitter, and then some on via emails, and then I collect them all in the ClickUp app.
Of course.
And go through them one by one.
Yeah. So you use Unity, right? Could you share the reason behind selecting Unity as your game engine? What unique features or tools does Unity offer that influenced your decision?
Well, I've used Unity for about 12 years now, so I'm pretty comfortable with it.
Okay. Yeah.
But in hindsight, I wish I didn't use Unity because I've run into a lot of bugs that have messed up a lot of things. Just 2 days before the release, I encountered a pretty serious bug which messed up my entire main scene file, and I had to pull out some backups and restore everything. That was pretty stressful.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So for my next project, I will definitely use something else. Unity is great, but I want to explore something else.
Of course. When it comes to bug testing in your video games, do you manage this personally, or do you have a team that specializes in it?
Well, mainly it's me who do the testing, but I have some friends and family members who also play the game from time to time, so I also rely on them for some bit of feedback and bug reporting. But for most time, it's just myself, as it's my games are mainly hobby projects, so I don't invest any money in QA and all that.
What is the toughest part of being a solo developer, considering the financial strain, technical hurdles, and emotional toll? How do you manage to keep moving forward?
The worst part, it's probably you're on your own when something messes up.
Yeah.
You need to fix everything yourself. You can't rely on someone with more expertise. There's always the support forums and all that, Stack Overflow and Twitter maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah.
On the contrary, the best part of being a solo dev or an indie dev?
The best thing, you get complete creative freedom.
Yeah,
I think it's
true.
the best part.
Of course.
There's no second opinions. It's just your own.
Yeah, of course. Game development can be time-consuming and demanding. How do you juggle it with other commitments in your life? Do you have any tips or methods that helps you keep everything in check?
I don't really have a established schedule per se. I just whenever I feel like in the evenings, I sit maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 hours working on some new feature or fixing some bugs and or something like that. Maybe sometimes I maybe don't just take a pause 1, 2, 3 days. So yeah, it's according to my mood and how I feel like working that day.
Of course.
But right now after the release, it's a pretty strict schedule. I need to fix some bugs and get an update out as soon as possible. So yeah, it depends.
Can you tell us about a game you're proud of aside from its financial performance or positive reviews?
Yeah, that must definitely be One Late Night, because both Markiplier and PewDiePie has played it. That's
insane.
That's it got pretty successful pretty fast, even though it wasn't my best made game in terms of technical quality, because it was my first Unity game. It was definitely my best, most successful game, which I like to revisit someday, maybe make a remake or a sequel.
You've expanded your game to mobile devices. Does this require a completely different development process compared to PC and console games, or are there overlapping techniques and methodologies?
With One Late Night, it was a complete remake for mobile, because the original code was pretty messy and not at all optimized and suitable for a mobile device. I don't think the game will run at all on the devices that were back then. So I rewrote the whole game from scratch, and I used most of the art assets as it were, but optimized some of them. Some models were pretty high polygon, so I needed to scale them back a bit and scale down the resolution of some textures and all that, so it could run pretty smoothly. But it took maybe 6 months to port the game, which was pretty fast for one person.
What is your methodology for game design, including the selection of color palettes and sound design? How do these elements come together to support your game aesthetic and mood?
It's pretty rare that I have some set, some predefined concept or color palette or something like that ahead of the design process. Sometimes I just do it on the fly, which if I find something visually appealing, I stick with it, and maybe it's mostly in my head, and sometimes I of course need to make some concept sketches and plan ahead before I do stuff. But yeah, it's as I go, I would say.
How do you handle the promotion and marketing for your game? Do you have a particular strategy or a set of tactics that you find works best?
Well, in terms of getting the game to have some visibility, I usually get it have something to show as soon as possible early on in the development, and then Twitter has always been pretty a good tool to get visibility, especially if you use animated GIFs or videos. It's also good, but GIFs especially has been pretty successful in getting traction on Twitter. And YouTube is also pretty good. Sometimes making just short videos on YouTube, and sometimes longer gameplay videos is also good to get some visibility. And then, of course, you can send out some beta keys for Steam to content creators so they can play your game. That's also a high priority, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe, let's say, 10 years ago, it was probably more profitable in some regard. But today it's very difficult to break through in the mobile market. Because basically the majority of games on Google Play is free. Then there's of course all the in-app purchases and all that. So if you're going to make a successful game on Google Play, you will probably need to have some long-term strategy to for your game, not just a paid game. I think Steam is a lot easier to make profitable than a mobile game on Google Play or iTunes App Store.
Of course. What is your approach to handling feedback from users? How do you gather, analyze, and implement suggestions to enhance the quality and player experience of your games?
Game development is an art form, so it's something you create with your creative brain, so to say. So it's always a bit. Sometimes it can be scary to put your creation out there on the internet and for everyone to see, just like when you maybe paint a painting and show off to the world. So yeah, maybe 10 years ago I would be a lot more take negative criticism a bit more personally, but since then I've learned to not take everything so personally and instead ignore the bad toxic negative feedback and instead focus on the good stuff and the creative the positive feedback and all the feedback that can help me improve the game.
Of course.
So the key thing I think is to not listen to the negative stuff and just focus on the good stuff.
Of course. Do you dabble in any side projects alongside your primary work?
Side project besides game development? Well, no, not at the moment. Sometimes I do a bit of painting with traditional painting, oil on canvas. That's
Nice.
Something I like to do sometimes. Not as much as game development, but it's a relaxing side project to do, I think.
What is your approach to character creation? Do you employ proofreading for your dialogues, or use a translator maybe to ensure clarity and consistency?
Yeah, that's a tricky question. For Zero Below the Sun, I didn't really have a plan, so to speak. I know that I wanted to have the protagonist should be stereotypical action hero with leather jacket and spiky hair and all that, and the shades. The whole game is a bit tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah.
So it's not taking itself very seriously. There's a lot of humorous dialogues and quirky things going on in the game, like the animations and stuff. But I wanted to have a cliche action hero and at least one villain, and then there's what do you call it? The smart guy, the professor, and the hacker. Yeah, they all grew sort of natural during the course of the development. There was no plan set from the start. They just evolved over time.
So what does the future hold for Black Curtain Studio? Could you share some insights into your upcoming projects or any new directions the studio is heading towards?
People have been hounding me about One Late Night to make a new game, so maybe it's time to start planning for that. Yeah. I know I want to make a remake of the first game because it's the original game is pretty buggy and a mess in the code, so it would feel nice to have make it at least somewhat bug-free and using a different engine and upgrade the graphics and maybe port it to some new platforms, maybe some consoles. And at least put it up on Steam, because right now it's just a downloadable zip file, which the website is still up and you can download it and but it is pretty buggy. I will admit that.
What advice do you have for those who are just starting their path as indie game developers? Are there any particular challenges you've faced or experiences you've had that could offer useful insights?
If you want to get into game development, it will be very helpful to learn how to code and understand code at least. But with today's game development tools, it's not always a requirement to know how to code, but it surely helps a lot. Like on Unreal, you have those blueprints where you are visually programming and you don't need to code at all. But it will always help you if you know how to code. And then it will also be helpful to have a bit of an artistic side. You can create all the art assets. But also there's some tools, some helpful sites and the resources where you can buy ready-made assets. But I think coding is probably the most important thing you should consider.
What aspects of the game industry are you particularly excited about? Or on the flip side, are there any challenges or issues that worry you?
Where it maybe AI has been pretty evolving pretty rapidly lately. I see a lot of people getting laid off because of AI. Some studios are replacing people with AI. That's pretty. You can have different opinions on that, but I think it's pretty naive to replace real actual talent with some generative AI, which is basically based upon real people's artistic work. So that's one thing. But more positive note maybe is I see indie devs are getting more and more popular. Indie games as a general, in general, is more popular than ever before. That's good to see.
Yeah,
I think people should continue supporting indie devs.
What games are you playing right now? Are there any titles that have particularly drawn you in recently?
I actually rarely play new games. I tend to play older retro games. No, I don't think so. There's some particular game I'm anticipating really. It's just the newest games I play is Nintendo Switch, I think, and there's maybe some PC games as well, maybe 1 or 2 a year.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's mostly retro for me.
Any game particular?
I like some RPGs, maybe Landstalker on Mega Drive Genesis is a good game I like to play. That's the most recent one, I think. I'm looking at my shelf of games.
Not everyone could say that, yeah. Of course. Is there anything you'd like to say to your fans or followers? Perhaps some words of gratitude, updates on your projects, or maybe any thoughts you'd like to share with your community?
I want to say thank you for the support and all the kind words and appreciations of my games. Especially all the One Late Night fans. I know there's a lot of them. It's difficult to reply to everyone everywhere on YouTube and Twitter and emails and all that. But yeah, hopefully I will have a new One Late Night game out soon. And keep supporting indie devs.
So well, that's all for today. Linus, thank you again for being on the show. It was a pleasure talking to you today. To everyone watching or listening to this episode, please follow Black Curtain Studio on all social networks and stay tuned for Linus' upcoming projects. Please support Control Indie by leaving a like, comment or share. My name is Juan Jose, and see you next time.
The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in this video are the speaker's own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of Control Plus Indie and its owner. The material and information presented here is for general information purposes only. The Control Plus Indie name and all forms and abbreviations are the property of its owner, and its use does not imply endorsement of or opposition to any specific organization, product, or service. All information, images, videos, or any multimedia content shown in this show is copyrighted. All rights reserved for Linus and Black Curtain Studio.